Hello, everybody. This is a young entrepreneur, and I am sitting with Jody Sedrick from Zenware. Zenware is a company that has been developing apps since 1990s. The company has been developed and formed in 2009 and has been part of the Boise, Idaho location. So, Jody, tell us a little bit about yourself today and your business.
So I am I'm one of the co-owners of Zenware. We are, like you said, out of Boise, Idaho. We've been in business 10 years. I'm a very proud father of 6 kids, 2 of which are adopted. I've been married 31 years in about 2 weeks.
Oh, congratulations.
And with Zenware, we develop a mobile app for the automotive detailing world. Actually, we can turn off the automotive features and go into other service-related businesses. But yeah, so that's where we spend a lot of our interest and time, is being able to help small businesses grow. So
awesome. So today's conversation, I wanted to start it off and explain this to everybody. Our topic for today in the young entrepreneur world is I felt this was a really hot topic, especially right now with so many businesses popping up, developing, when to grow, when to expand, and when to slow it down to make your expansion just right. And I wanted to meet up with Jody from Zenware because Jody, over the last few years, has managed to make this happen. They have grown from being program-based to being app-based and really expanding their app-based market. So, Jody, tell us about, so when you started in the 1990s, can you explain what were some of the first programs that you guys worked with back in the 90s and what changed you to now?
Well, actually, Zenware started 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the software world since the 90s. But, when we started Zenware, our full intent was to develop a cloud-based mobile invoicing system for any small business that was offering services. So anybody in a truck that was doing mobile services, or that had a 4 walls operation and they needed a CRM solution to really run their business. To answer your question, we started out, we did not want to go outside for additional funding. So we strategically made the decision to really bootstrap our business build up. And so we used custom software development to build applications for other businesses. And then anything extra from those revenues we used to build our own software application. So it was very, very slow initially, because we were spending a lot of time on other people's businesses and using the leftovers. And yes, we could have gone out and probably gotten some funding, but we would have lost control of our destiny. And so we decided to take it very slow and strategic from the get-go so that we would have control of our ultimate destiny as a company.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand that. So I have noticed that with most businesses, they like to talk about, we're doing really well, we're growing very good, but they forget when they're talking to younger entrepreneurs that explaining to them some of the bad sides help people to understand that growth doesn't always happen right away. So, for example, Total Eclipse, the business that I've been in the last 10 years is within our first year, this last year, we purchased a building, which was one of our great big jump into the field of expansion. And a lot of people ask me all the time, they're like, oh, you just bought a building. Aren't you excited? Are you guys pulling off bigger revenue? And the truth is, I look at them and I said, no, it hurts within our first year. Even though we've been in business for 10 years, it hurts now because it's like regrowth. You're developing it all the way from the beginning again. Can you tell me some of your pains and some of your rewards that you guys have had throughout the last couple or few years that you guys have been in business?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think a lot of times people think that they're within 2, 3, 4 years, they're going to have $1 million, $1 billion industry. When in reality, I mean, the first year we ran our businesses, we met once a week as an ownership team in our kitchens. And then we went home and we worked out of our houses to build our business. And so I think a lot of times we think business growth happens fast. And I'll never forget, a year and a half into it, we had to make our decision to hire our first employee. And that was a big decision. It was, it's like, guys, are we going to take a bite financially on our own selves so that we can take this leap of faith to hire somebody? And that's what we decided to do. But within, a few months, we were able to catch up on that bite. But, taking that leap and that investment and that next step was really critical. Last year, and we've had kind of milestones like that where you recognize you have to take a leap of faith. And last year we doubled in our RotaFest subscriptions. We're now looking at the growth that we've acquired, and we recognize that in order to double again, we are going to have to make some strategic internal changes to make us more effective. And that has required some very hard decisions, self-assessments, not only personally, but also as a team to go, look, guys, we need to change some processes in order to handle the growth that we're going to get. And I can tell you, we will double this year. And I think, in conjunction with that, because I know a year ago when I told my business partner we would double in 2019, he's like, man, I don't know how we're going to do it. I'm like, yes, not only can we do it, but we are going to do it, and we're going to do everything we can to do it. But it takes really hard work as an entrepreneur, because here's the deal. You own the business. Your employees don't own the business. They don't have the same investment mentally, emotionally that you have in building the business. Unless you get that rare employee, which we have 2 of them that just are over the top committed to what we're doing. And that is exciting, right? And I reward those guys because I see their emotional and their time commitments to helping us become better.
True that, true that. I have noticed that, the hardest part about growth, and I think a lot of people misunderstand the word growth is everything around you. As a business has been around for 10, as a business has been around for 20 or even 30 years, a lot of people want to expect growth as big individual happenings. They don't focus on, hey, when I started my business, I was an S10 pickup truck, a Shih Tzu poodle, and a wash bucket. You know what I mean? And now I'm a 3-bay shop, 2 dogs, big, huge showroom, and a lot of more expenses than I had when I first started. So these are the expansions that you do in the growing. So I usually try to explain to people that if you're thinking about growing, try to think in little jumps, because a lot of people want to do these big, huge jumps right off the bat. And as a friend of mine said, maybe more towards an entrepreneur, a good friend of mine, Rennie Doyle, said, hey, try to be hardcore, not gun-ho. And that has been a key piece of my business in the last 3 or 4 years, is try to remember that focusing on what I want to make happen and then taking it a little bit slower and then making it happen gives you a better result. And I see that amongst a lot of other businesses, but young entrepreneurs, it's hard to explain because they want so much so quickly to make bigger money faster, that they forget that being a little bit slower and being precise works better.
Well, I think there's a couple things there. Number one, you have to strategically grow. It's easy to grow, but you can crumble underneath your wanting to grow too fast. The other thing is, a lot of times we try to skip steps. And invariably, if you try to skip steps, you are going to revisit those things that you tried to jump over, and it's going to cost you more time and money to revisit those. So, if you look at any truly successful business, they had consistent strategic growth over time, right? And the other thing that I think is really important, and this is hard for new entrepreneurs, is you need to make sure, especially as you're starting to hire people or you have business partners that are working with you, you need to have people in the right roles, in the right positions. And 3 years into our business, we had to make a decision, and it was an uncomfortable decision where we moved responsibilities from one person that thought they were ideal for that position, and we moved it to somebody else, and it was the best decision we made for our company, because that person had the right skills for that role, not just the desire to do it. And sometimes making that decision is hard, but you as an entrepreneur have to be able to make the hard decisions, even though it may temporarily dampen morale or set you back. But when you really analyze it and make the right decision and put the right people in the right roles, you can grow strategically.
Mm-hmm. Do you find it that it was easier to make those decisions that come to the fact that you have that you're not the primary owner, that you have a that you have that you have a partner in the business?
Well, and we're kind of unique. It in some aspects it is easier. In other aspects, it's harder. Because I actually have more than one partner. And so that even makes you're discussing amongst yourself. Now, with that said, if I didn't have those other partners, I would have had to have hired those skill sets, because they have skill sets that I don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a tendency, my personality is, I have an idea, it feels right, and go execute and get it done. My one partner's like, whoa, let's analyze it, and let's, step back, and let's make sure. He's more calculated than I am. And you need that person.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes, usually, having that person to slow me down, to coach and say, look, we need to reconsider this, or, have you thought about this, instead of just leaping, that slowing down is important. But on the other hand, I'm like, dude, this is the right decision. We need to go. Quit holding me back. And so sometimes that can be frustrating. But overall, over time, I think we make better decisions, because we have all of our interests in mind. We're not being selfish about it. And that is the risk of having a partner is, are they going to look at it as building a business, or are they just looking at it for what are they getting out of the business?
Mm-hmm. Now, do you do your growth based on meeting margins? Because I know that that's a common topic. For instance, I was just listening to I like listening to a lot of podcasts as well as my own, and one of the things that I noticed is a lot of people try to set margins as, oh, well, we want to see a 10% increase this year, and they try to grow on this 10% increase. But what they forgot is they made 100% last year, so 10% is not really that much harder to do. And I look at a lot of people and I say, well, growth is good like that because it's small growth. But if you're already thinking that you're making 100% growth, 100% in the margin already, then 10 extra percent is not bad. So why not already think you're at 10%? Because by thinking that way, you're already developing a market in that way of thinking.
Well, this is how there's two areas to grow. And to me, the most important area to grow is your margins. I mean, because I don't care if you're making $1 million a year. If you're only making at the end of the year $5,000, what are you working for? Right. And so, like, for example, one of the things that we did last year is we looked at all of our costs. And when I analyzed all of our costs for hosting and development and other options, we recognized that if we would change hosting platforms, that we could capture an additional, equivalent to hiring another person, because we cut our costs, increasing our margins. And so that's one way that you can increase your growth. The other thing is just, do you go out and try to exponentially increase sales? So you can either cut costs or you can increase sales and increase your margins. But you really have to be attuned to those numbers. So we analyze that. I mean, right now, we painstakingly looked at all of our projects and said, we feel like we need to hire somebody. But then we went and we made a spreadsheet. We looked at all of our projects. We looked at all of our costs and all of our projected new work for the next 3 months. And we're like, yeah, we need to hire somebody. But a lot of people don't put those analysis into their business so that they can strategically make a decision instead of just going off their gut.
And I noticed another thing about, like, just to follow up with that piece right there. Analysis is great, but a lot of time when we put into analysis, so like, let's say a young entrepreneur looks at his QuickBooks and he's looking at his profit and loss statement. And next thing he knows, he's like, hey, I made $10,000 more than last year. But what is not really taken into consideration is he did that without marking a plan down majority of the time. And I find that a lot of people don't execute writing business plans every year as a short-term business plan. I want to get this done. I want to get that done. I want to get this done. And it's going to be at this cost, and working that cost into the business plan. Do you find yourself working a business plan every year? And do you find yourself and your partners making it a goal to execute that plan to the T every year?
Oh yeah, you have to. I mean, we started looking at 2020 in October, right? And we're like, all right, this is where we're tracking for the end of the year. How do we strategically keep us strong through the end of Q4? And what are our plans for 2020? So I have a huge whiteboard. I mean, it's probably 4 by 6, I think. And it's in our office, and it has all of our goals for 2020. And every day, not every week, I mean, every day, we analyze our financials, we analyze our productivity, we analyze how our customers are doing. Are they increasing or decreasing? And so we're every day self-assessing how we're doing throughout the year. And so now we're into February, and how many of you guys have abandoned your goals from January 1? Right? We start out with good intentions. How many of us said we're going to hit the gym every day? And January 1, the gym was packed. And 3 weeks into January, it's already starting to dwindle. And I go there today, February 8th or whatever it is, and it's back to normal. Right? And it's because, one, we don't self-assess every single day. We don't recommit and or readjust based on new information so that we can stay on track throughout the year. So yes, you need to have a plan for the year, but you need to break it down month by month, week by week, day by day to help you stay on track.
Yeah, that's a good point. Assessment, and it can be done in every type of business. So if you are a young entrepreneur, try to remember that going back to yourself, try to look at what made you want to expand. So before you start expanding your business or start expanding what you're growth is, if you're trying to grow your business bigger, some of the things that you want to pay attention to, I try to look at them in steps before I start making things happen with myself. So some of the things that people tend to do is they run a, I'll give you an example. A mechanic buys a 1-bay shop and he wants to grow from a 1-bay shop to a 3-bay shop. And he's not really analyzing like you were just talking about. What he wants to do is he says the only way he says that he can make more money is by having that bigger shop. So no matter what he does, he makes it a goal to have that bigger shop without analyzing his profit and loss statement. And then he finds out that he can't make those payments to have that bigger shop because the growth was too big too fast. What if you had to do small steps, Jody, call them from 1 to whatever, could you honestly put those into 1, 2, 3 base steps so a young entrepreneur would know where to start looking to analyze himself? So in other words, say we have a friend Mick, and Mick has he's a young entrepreneur. He needs a 1, 2, 3 step to start analyzing whether he should make his growth or not. Where would you start and where would you finish?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, it actually comes down to a couple things. Number one, you have to be able to analyze your true profitability as a business owner. Now, are there areas that you can cut cost? Are there areas that are there areas that you can make more sales? Are there areas that you can augment your current offerings to make you more money? For example, you're a detailer, right? So you run a detail business. Yes, you can, do all kinds of detailing. You can do full detail, interior, exterior. So when you're looking at your business, should I add on new services? Should I add ceramic coating? Should I, in conjunction with my detailing business, should I sell products so that my do-it-yourselfers can, maintain their vehicle and, get expertise from you? So when you can start looking at, secondary services that complement each other, it allows you to, take advantage of opportunities with the current customer. And so you need to be looking at all of those things. You need to be looking at your margins and your costs and new opportunities for new business lines. Like in our business, can we take our software RoadFS and can we repurpose it for a completely different industry and not have to rewrite a bunch of stuff? And so there's a lot of things that when you start looking at, your product offerings or your company as a whole, your services, where with a few minor tweaks, you can really exponentially grow your business with a few minor tweaks and changes.
So we have a couple of questions that came from a couple individuals this week they're young entrepreneurs. They've owned their businesses for about a year now in each one. And I figured this would be a good time to sit down with you and maybe have you help us assess some of these questions. Maybe we can answer these questions for these gentlemen together. The first one comes from Webco, which is out of New Gloucester, Maine. He does self-fabricating parts. He does light steps for trucks. And he's got 2 of them. Both of these gentlemen do actually. So here we go. What are some of the things that you struggle at and how do you overcome them?
Boy, that where do you even begin there? I mean, that's on a personal level, on a business level. I mean, on a business level, there is always something that you're struggling with, right? It can be cash flow. I mean, that's a big one for young entrepreneurs. How do I keep the lights on when cash flow isn't going as fast as we'd like it to? So, the things.
Do you remember how cash flow was for you when you guys first started Zenware?
Absolutely. I totally remember it. I mean, I still look at it. And part of that is because, when we were starting out, we were doing custom software development. So what we learned very quickly was instead of doing milestone payments, we changed our model to say, you know what, rather than having a big lump sum up front, and then we're going to work against it, and then midway you're going to give us another one. We found that we were creating our own cash flow problems. And so we changed the way that we were billing out to our customers and saying, look, we're basically developing a software for you, but we're augmenting your staff. So we're gonna invoice you every 2 weeks. And I tell you, that took off a huge burden onto us. I mean, that really helped because of just the way that we changed our invoicing, and we put everything, instead of net 30, it's net zero. As soon as I send you a check, an invoice, you write me a check. Just like if I go to the store and I buy a product, I pay you right then. So we changed our model to be, you know what, we offer the services, you pay us. And that really helped. The other things is, you know, managing your employees. I mean, you know, as a small business owner, if you get sick, you still show up to work.
Yeah, tell me about it. As a
right?
detailer, I'm there every day. Yep.
But your employee, they get a sniffle, and it's
They're out the
like
door.
they're on deathbed's door, and they don't show up. Sorry, boss. I can't come in today, right?
Yep.
And you're going, crap, I got all this work to do that we've planned out, and now how am I going to get it done? Because now I'm behind, right? And so, you know, being able to manage your team is really important. And what I found that's really helpful for us is we actually have a monthly luncheon with our team. And we're actually going to change that to every 2 weeks and maybe every week. Because what we found is that as they're more involved in helping us plan our growth and giving feedback, the more excited they get about, you know, helping us build the business, because they feel like they're part of that. So involving them in those discussions has really, really been helpful for creating not only a solid company, but a really solid team environment. And yeah, so we actually yesterday, or, you know, just last week, you know, we changed our monthly lunch, and we said, all right, guys, instead of doing monthly lunch and having a round table, let's actually make it a educational thing. So I've asked, you know, one of the partners and one of the team leads to bring something in that's going to help us grow as a team, and we want your feedback. And so that has been very helpful, you know, to help us overcome some of those employee issues by bringing them into
getting them into it. Yep.
Yes.
See, that was something as I firmly believe in, and that is the only way you can truly grow or develop your business is if and be able to keep your employees into it is trying to remember that the only way you can do it is by making sure they can do it as well. And that is very hard for most young entrepreneurs. I call it the baby syndrome. The baby syndrome is this: you grew your business thinking that if you weren't there, your baby couldn't walk, couldn't run, couldn't talk. And as that baby starts to grow, we hire an employee or we hire a mother to take care of this. And the next thing you know, the mom's taking care of it. We still don't have faith in it. So we want to be there constantly. Well, that's a problem young entrepreneurs have all across the world. I don't care how many employer entrepreneurs I've ever talked to or business owners I've ever talked to. The hardest part about owning a business is learning when to say, here you go, take care of it. I have to walk away from it. Nowadays, that's a big piece for your entrepreneurs or business owners, because we spend so much time being in our business that we forgot how to step away from our business. So growth is the best when you can step away and look at it.
Well, and that is a really important thing, because when you're building your business, you think that you have to do everything. And when you start hiring people, you have to let go of things that you did before, and you have to allow them you have to empower them to be able to take that over from you. And that's hard because it's been your baby.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't start empowering them, you are never going to grow. You're
Yep.
just not, right? And so it's really critical that you learn how to bring in people that can augment your talents and then trust them to do that thing which you've been struggling with.
Okay, so the next one Webb had was, what is the one thing? All right, so I think what he was trying to ask is, what was the sign that told you it was a great time to grow?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's a couple things. One, your customers are pulling you in a direction that is a natural fit for you. That's one. The other is that you're bringing in the money and you can't necessarily execute at the level that you would like to because it's too much, it's overwhelming. And so in order for you to unleash that growth, you have to bring somebody in. So that pressure, it's like you can feel the pressure. And when you start analyzing all of the things causing the pressure, you can see that if I make a strategic leap of faith by bringing somebody on or getting a bigger building or, adding new services, then I can grow. And a lot of it is driven by that pressure that's being driven by your customers and your growth.
Yeah, I think that piece right there, that's a dangerous question for me. The only reason why I say that is because what I feel tends to happen is that people want a sign as if it came from heaven, and you can't do that because, for example, I'll explain to you. Within my first 3 years of owning my business, I went from doing it mobilely door to door to doing it to a one bay garage, which was a great piece. But then I realized that after that 3 years, people were my prices weren't good enough. They weren't high enough for what I was putting out. And that's a big, huge mistake. So we think that we're getting all this business as it's rip roaring, it's ready to go, and we're about to expand. When the reality part was we need to grow within ourselves and expand our profit margin, which was to charge more.
Yeah, that's a really good thing, because a lot of us, we are afraid to raise our prices,
Mm-hmm.
and that actually probably needs to be done more often than we do. The other thing is discounting our value.
Mm-hmm.
And going, you know what, I'm brand new, and so I need to undercut my prices, instead of going, yeah, I'm brand new, but I got mad skills and I have a mad product and this is my price. And I think a lot of times we're so hungry for the business that we come across desperate, and our customers can take advantage of that. And then we start to undervalue our own self instead of going, you know what, this is my price. I'd love to do business with you, but if you can't accept my price, there's plenty of other guys in this market that probably will do it, but I do it better, and this is why, and this is my price.
Now, as a young entrepreneur, that might be a little bit harder. Let's be real, maybe a smidget realistic here. As a young entrepreneur, say, I'll give you an example. I have another guy here who gave us a question. Aaron's Tractor Service and Stump Removal. He's from out of Oxford, Maine. And this falls along one of his questions. He said, how do I learn how to price my services without being undercut? Now, he's within his first year. So the truth of the matter is that as much as I want to say, keep your prices up there, keep them, you want to be strong about your prices. The truth is that he is just getting himself into the business line. And with him being into a business line that's already been developed and maybe oversaturated, he may want to look at being a mediocre price and matching everybody's price instead of being a little bit too high. And then when he finds out that his clientele list or clientele realize that his product is better than everybody else's, then he might want to go up on that price or set a higher price at that extent.
Well, I think it's important to know, what your market will bear. But I also know that a lot of times the market will bear greater than you think it will.
Hmm.
And a lot of that has to do with, yes,
Analyzing.
you may be starting out a new business, but are your skills and your expertise worth X dollars amount, right?
Hmm.
And I think a lot of times we undercut ourselves and say, well, I'm just starting a new business, so my prices need to be low so that I can get the business, instead of going, yes, I'm a new business, but I am an expert in this field and I deserve this dollar value. And I'm going to expect it and I'm going to ask it and I'm going to deliver the value on that. And when you start delivering on the value of it, the word of mouth is going to bring you business and it's going to help you grow.
But that's the reason why I said earlier, Jody, I didn't say, I use that very strongly to, and I wouldn't lower my price, but to meet the market margin is not bad. So like when you talk a cheeseburger, let's talk, if you walk up and you buy a cheeseburger at McDonald's, you're going to find out it's on the dollar menu. If you walk up to Burger King, guess what? That cheeseburger is still $1 at Burger King too. And that market right there is because that's what you can get a cheeseburger for. Now, when I explain to people, I'm like, okay, well, let's say you got McDonald's, you got Burger King, and they're both charging $1 for their burgers, but I'm a Wendy's. I'm going to look at people and say, okay, it's $1.25. Why? Because my value of my burger exceeds their value of their burger. So you're going to taste better. You're going to taste better meat. You're going to get lettuce and tomato fresh. So this is the way you need to look at it. And when I explain that to people, having a margin that's not over inflation, which is, there are people out there that think their product is better than what it really is. But the truth is within a year, you have to prove it to people that your product is better than what everybody else is. And as you grow that business, that's where you can make the price increase as it grows.
Yeah, but here's the deal. If you're starting out offering a Carl's Jr. burger price at $5,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the value, but you're charging $1, the McDonald's rate, you're doing yourselves a disservice.
Yes, correct. I agree about that, and I don't disagree. What I'm saying is like I use a Wendy's to be exact. I did say Wendy's. Okay.
Yeah, but I don't rate them that much more.
But that's the reason why I was saying is like,
Yeah.
It would be different if I was walking into Jody's Fine Burgers and Display. You know what I mean? I walk into Jody's Burgers and there he is with a quarter pounder burger with fresh tomatoes and mayo and everything else. I'm going to pay $5 for that because I know it's already exceeding my expectations. But a lot of people tend to put their toe in the water and say, well, let me give you a try, and if your product's good, then yeah. But when it comes to when it comes to detailers, education becomes the key. So I guess what this question really is based on is, and like you said, is the education side. What puts you in front of them, and why should I pay your money to use your services if you're not educated as much as, like, you walk up to, like us. I look at people and say, hey, I'm Internationally Detailer Association certified detailer skills validated through the IDA. Now that, as well as I have been to 2 separate classes for 2 separate individual detailers and learned my profession. Now I can say, not only say it, but back it up my price based on my experience. Now, I usually tell people, if you are a young entrepreneur in your field, make sure that you have something that separates you from the rest of the guys. Experience is the key. In other words, get experience first before you jump out in the field. And now you can set your prices any way you want it.
Yeah, you have to understand your value and you have to understand the market. Mm-hmm. And the more experience that you can demonstrate and execute on, the more valuable you and or your business are going to be in understanding that, hey, maybe today I'm only worth $60 an hour. But if I do X, Y, and Z, I should be worth $80 an hour, right? And I think a lot of times we want to have growth without having the foundational elements that build towards that growth. We just want to leapfrog it and say, oh yeah, I'm worth $80 an hour or $100 an hour. But you didn't do anything to yourself and or your business to merit that increase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as far as money is concerned, that's like I said, experience is the key to make. If you really want to make yourself ahead of your local competition, try to get experience before you start making it happen. That's always a good key. But
yeah,
so,
I mean, think about it this way. And sorry I interrupted you, but
no.
I've used, in my business, I have a lawyer, and I have actually two lawyers. One lawyer cost me $400 an hour. The other one cost me $195 an hour. What's the difference? The difference is the $400 guy an hour has a specialty that he has spent years and years getting hold of and mastering, and so he's worth the $400 an hour. And I gladly pay it because he helps us in our business.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to think about that in your business as well. I mean, if you want to grow your business, you need the skills, the service, the expertise, the products that will allow you to command a higher price or will enable you to dominate the market.
Great. So, Jody, we're running up. We're getting close to our time for the day, and I usually ask. I like to make sure that our growing entrepreneurs, read, because I'm a big reader. I like to listen to either Audible or read a book. So, Jody, knowing that you're that kind of guy and you like to enjoy yourself a little bit, can you tell me your favorite book? What's the book you're reading, or what book you find really interesting right now?
Every single business owner needs to read The Dip by Seth Godin.
Okay, why?
The reason why is because a lot of times we hit a wall, we hit a dip, and we think, you know what, I shouldn't have done this and I'm going to quit. When in reality, we're just in a dip, and if we just keep pushing, we can crawl out of that dip and explode our growth. And so you need to know this book. Really, it's a small book. It's quick, short read, but it really talks about when is the right time to quit and when is the right time to push forward, because we're always taught never quit, but that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Winners quit all the time. They just quit the right things.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to be an Olympic bodybuilder, I can't be eating pizza and cheesecake every Friday night, right? I have to quit certain things and do certain things to allow me to execute at that level. And you just go on. I love the book, The Dip. I mean, it's one of my favorite personal development and business owner books, hands down.
Yeah, it's quite interesting that you said that one there, because I heard a saying today. It stuck in my head, and the saying went, "Plan to fail, execute to win." And that is a great. I'll probably stick in my head for a long time, because a lot of us, being entrepreneurs or business owners, we want to plan like everything's going to work out fine. The worst thing in the world as a business owner is to wake up one day and find out your business isn't running real well and you're going to have to quit it. And it's not the quitting that's the hardest part. It's the embarrassment.
Well, here's the thing. This is how I feel about that. I don't think you should plan to fail. Well, I think what you should plan for is that your dream will take longer than you think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good point.
And we have an expectation that our business will grow at this speed, but in reality, it's going to take longer than you think. I mean, straight up, I've been in business 10 years. I thought I would be where I am today 5 years ago. And if I would have 5 years ago said, you know what, I'm done, this isn't working out, I wouldn't have been able to reap what I'm doing right now. But a lot of times we're so focused on the goal that we're not embracing the journey of becoming the entrepreneur, the business owner, the person that we need to become. Think about it this way. We often look at the horizon and we're running for the horizon. But as you move forward, does the horizon get closer or farther away, or does it stay the same?
In my
the
area,
horizon is always off in the distance.
yeah.
So measure milestones, not the horizon.
Mm-hmm. Correct. So for everybody that doesn't know, this is Jody Sedrick from Zenware. You can also meet Jody in a couple different areas. One of my favorite areas is his podcasts. If you get the chance, you can listen to him. Jody, can you tell us ways that people can reach you on your podcasts?
Yeah, I actually have two podcasts. I have one called Father's Fire. That's FYRE, where I explore fatherhood and being a man and being a great dad. And then I also have a second podcast that I do with my wife called Choose, Don't Excuse, where we explore the power of choice in your life to help you succeed. So
Great. And as far as Zenware, can you go through your services and then tell everybody how they can look you up and find you guys?
yeah, so Zenware, if you're in the services business, whether automotive or tow trucking or property management, it doesn't matter. We have a product called Road FS that is a mobile invoicing CRM solution to help you manage and invoice your customers. We run a really cool Facebook Live every week called Detail Memoirs or Mafia Memoirs, depending on who we are interviewing that week. And we also turn that into a podcast as well. If you just look at RoadFest Mafia Memoirs, and it's really focused on interviewing the detailers, the vendors, and the suppliers in the industry. So, it's just a lot of fun because we're trying to educate and elevate, just like you're doing with this podcast, trying to give people information to help them be successful in their service business.
Great. Now, do you have a web presence, Jody?
Yeah, we have Zenware.com, Rotafest.com, and I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Jody Sedrick. I'm on TikTok, Jody Sedrick. I try to be everywhere. So let's just have some fun together and, try to build each other up. So
Great. Well, thank you, Jody. We appreciate you stopping on our podcast and sitting down and talking to some of the young entrepreneurs and answering some questions for us. And I would look forward to having you on our podcast again, maybe sooner than later.
that's great.
Awesome. I hope you have yourself a great day. And for everybody, this is Jody Sedrick, our from Zenware out of Boise, Idaho. Boise, Idaho.
Go.
I get to say it again. There we go. So, Jody, thank you very much, and I hope you have yourself a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
You too, man. Thanks for having me. And guys, listen to this guy. He's got some nice nuggets for you. So thank you for having me on your podcast.
All right, man. Bye-bye.
See ya.